Welcome back for another video. It's Eharbad once more. We're back in Raid Shadow Legends. And we're going to have a little bit of a heart-to-heart today. No spreadsheets, no analysis beyond a bit of contextual conversation. Now, I will caveat, before we say anything, I will caveat it with the fact that I have played the game for nearly 4 years, and I am a bit jaded. So take everything I say with maybe a pinch of salt, and recognize that it's my opinion, it's my perspective on the game, and other people are probably in a different situation or a different circumstance and are enjoying the game more, having a more positive outlook, and maybe we'll see things differently. But with that out the way, Fatalis Blademaster, the guaranteed legendary that came out of nowhere, was not forecast at all. In fact, bear in mind, when they did forecast the Monster Hunter collaboration, we did have some news way back when. I can't go back far enough. And they had on the website what events each, or what acquisition method each champion was going to have. They then decided that was too helpful to the players, too generous. How dare the players have any idea what events are upcoming in this game? So they promptly deleted it. But in any case, Fatalis was never meant to have a guaranteed, at least according to that initial plan, and for everything they've ever told us throughout this collaboration, he was never meant to have one. Obviously, the 10x didn't go down well enough. Potentially, the Titan event hasn't been a big enough success. So they want to make a bit more money and try and really capitalize on the FOMO of missing out on a limited time champion. Now, all of that is kind of objectively fine, you could say. I mean, I personally think it's a pretty bad way of treating your player base. And, we can disagree or agree on that part. Let's just put that to one side. Guaranteed champions through a deck of fate have consistently been 40,000 points rather. I was going to go 40 cards. Anyway, and then I got tongue-tied. And typically they tend to be summoning champions related. And to do that, normally it takes 20 sacred shards, is how it has been. Now, guaranteed events have been 20 sacreds since Elva. And Elva marked a increase from, if I remember correctly, 15 sacreds to 20 sacreds. And there was a big uproar, obviously. But then Elva was a S tier champion, and the majority of people just pulled her anyway, including myself. And people tried to say, maybe it's a one-off. They'll only, they'll just do it this one time, and then we'll go back to 15 sacreds. And obviously that never happened, let's be honest. The new benchmark was 20 sacreds. Fast forward about a year, a little bit more than a year, and they're now going for a new benchmark again. We've always talked about rampant inflation in the game, and they keep pushing those point targets higher and higher, just seeing how much they can just squeeze the players, really make sure that they make you sweat on every decision. You can't just enjoy the game. You have to have a bit of stress when playing the game. And honestly, objectively, a bit of stress definitely makes them more money. It's a very dependable tactic. But I think there's a limit to everything. And the game has generally been going in a bad direction for the best part of 12 to 18 months, I would say. Things like the Empowerment plus Iron Twins, plus then Sand Devils, plus Phantom Shogun Grove, all of the stat bloat that came from all of these things has kind of imbalanced the game. Then we had Taras Marishka, that kind of ruined arena in many ways for many people. It continues to ruin live arena as well, to be honest. The game's completely imbalanced. And then we got Sintranos, where again we know the end of Curse City is ridiculous. The Soul Cross, when you've got trash like this. And yes, technically I can put all these champions in stun set, run it 100 times, and I'll probably win. But that's not fun. Like, that's not fun at all. And some of the boss stages I thought were quite interesting, quite inventive. I really don't mind the dual boss idea. And I don't mind having certain restrictions on boss stages we have to beat once. I do think Amius himself is a bit of a trash fight, to be honest. And I think it's a bit lazy they didn't add anything else new here. And but we've talked about it. But it's just like, I don't feel like they're really putting the effort in anymore, if we're honest. Like, and they haven't for a long time. Like, the amount of effort they put into Doom Tower, all the new bosses, the concept of the waves in Doom Tower is unlike anything we had seen previously. But by the time we got to Curse City, it just feels a bit tired. It's a bit like a poor man's Doom Tower crossed with Faction Wars in some way, shape, or form, but almost more punitive than that. And then, we have the events that they keep coming out with. Titan event, this was absolute trash. Deck of Fate, like, come on. 25 sacreds. Now I have the shards, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, are they realistically ever going to buff this champion to make him usable? Probably not. They're kind of in an awkward position. If they buff him, then people will be annoyed that that he's a limited champion and they can't ever get him. And people will be annoyed that they didn't go for the guaranteed. If they don't buff him, people will be annoyed as well. And I just don't think they care. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm sure there's some specific developers, community managers that really care about the game and enjoy the game for what it is. But I think higher up in the company, they just don't care. All they really want to do is get as much money out of the players as possible. They are truly in profit mode. They do not care about making a game that is fun for the players. And I know you can say as a contra argument that I am a free-to-play player and I'm providing them nothing. And the game isn't designed for me, etc., etc. There's a couple of caveats to that. One, the game wouldn't exist if you didn't have free-to-play players playing it. They don't have enough spenders and whales that would enjoy being able to show that they're better than the people who don't spend if you didn't have the free-to-play community. That's kind of a fundamental basis of all these free-to-play games. The economy works in such a way that people are encouraged to spend as a flex. Now, if they only had the spenders, I don't think the game would persist. I think people would just go, the spenders would just go to another game where they can, exert their dominance over everyone else. So having an active player base, to have a healthy game community and an activity in the game means that you need free-to-play players in the game as well. So, but I don't think it really matters. Obviously, I recognize that game companies need to make money to support the product, like any product does. And they could have created ways for people to support them without pay to win. That is a simple reality. They could have, not had the same degree of pay to win that they've now introduced. Because truthfully, you go back 2-3 years Raid was always accused of being a massive, massive pay-to-win game. And it wasn't. That's the truth. Like, you could spend a fortune, but you could do basically everything in the game without spending. And you could have fun in the game. And I did. But I feel like now, like, I don't know, they've created so much almost like competition between players. Look at this tag team, this doesn't even work. They created so much conflict between players, things like CVC, Hydra Clash. You've got constant conflict within your clan, across clans, people spending to win these competitive game modes. So much imbalance in the champion rosters. You know, we just look at like the Trunda Yumiko situations for Hydra. You look at the Taras Marishka in Arena. Nothing was this imbalanced and this broken 2-3 years ago. It just wasn't. And fusions used to be considerably easier to do, not nearly as brutal. Now I can still do them. I have my collection of resources. I can get them done. But it's just not that fun anymore because you just have to play the game so much, and it's becoming more and more like a job. And even the content creators, I think, and I haven't really watched too many of them, but I'm sure, because I see some thumbnails that pop up now and then, I think even they recognize that things have gone too far, and they're able to play the game as a full-time job. The majority of them, they're able to play full-time, and it's still too much for them. But people who have, other work commitments, such as myself, and you want to have at least a small semblance of a real life, which I'd like to say also myself, maybe. This game has just become too punishing. We've been talking about it for years, about the quality of life, the time it takes in the game. And they keep throwing us small little bones to make time a little bit less punishing. Things like instant complete on Clan Boss, amazing, fantastic. They finally fully implemented, whatever you call it, when you do the two fights, super raids. They finally implemented them properly, so they'll actually give you CVC points where they hadn't previously, which was just ridiculous. And when people said to them like, this doesn't make any sense, they were like, well, you're not running 2 fights, you're just using twice the energy for twice the reward, so you don't get 2 times the points for CVC. But now they've realized, actually, no, we can do that now we can do it. Before we couldn't, now we can. Whatever. And there were certain quests where it didn't count as well. So if you did like clan quests, for instance, sometimes it would tell you need to clear the stage like 200 times or something. Don't seem to see any here. There you go, things like this. Clear Ice Golem's Peak 200 times. Now, if you did 100 times on super raids, that wouldn't count. And it's like, that's just nonsense. Like, this is just stupid. But that's what it's like. It's like, we'll give you a small amount of quality of life, but you can't actually use it that easily. If you have something else that you need to do at the same time, maybe the super raids won't work for you. They'll actually penalize you. It's just painful. But they've finally given us that. But now we've got Hydra that we now have to manual again because of Hydra Clash. So we'd got to a point where maybe we could auto that, but now we have to manual it. That takes, many hours a week. Curse City. If you actually want to complete Soul Cross, even the end game Krakens, this is a considerable time commitment because you do have crazy RNG stages. And, you're still looking at like, what was it, 101 stages here plus 101 stages here. Plus, then we have to go and do Doom Tower every month. That's another 120 two times. So that's 240. Just all adds up. It takes a lot of time. Live Arena, if you want to do it, which I don't. It takes a lot of time. Tag Team on Reset takes a lot of time. The whole game takes a lot of time. Then the fusions penalize you and make you play even more. They keep doing more ridiculous dungeon divers. Unfortunately, none are open here, so I can't show it to you. And then they throw these kind of unscheduled, untelegraphed deck of fate for Trash Champion, and then they increase the shard cost on that as well. I liken raid players these days. We're like frogs that have been put into water, and they've been slowly turning the temperature up for the last 2 years. And it's a roaring boil right now. And some people are beginning to jump out, or have been actually over the last like 3 to 6 months. I've seen a lot of people quit the game in my like clan cluster, to the point that my former clan cluster actually had to merge with another that then merged with another because there's been difficult keeping recruitment going. So yeah, I think the frogs that are the Raid Shadow Legends players, they're beginning to jump out of the boiling water. But Plarium's going to keep turning up the temperature more and more and more, and until there's no one left, basically. And because all they seem to really want to do is extract every ounce of blood out of the player base that they possibly can. Yeah, long live profit mode.